Hi everyone, welcome to my talk called Making Coffee with Flutter. As you can see, I brought something here with me. That's the thing we're talking about today. This talk. What we'll talk about today will first be a short introduction of who I am, how I got to this machine, how I got to the idea of using Flutter to control a coffee machine. We'll speak a little bit about the machine itself, because as you can guess, it's not that original anymore, so it's been modded and a few things changed. We'll talk about eFlutter, embedded Flutter in total, and we'll learn how to use eFlutter and what to look out for, like a real step-by-step guide on how to use embedded Flutter. So, first of all, who am I? My name's Moritz. I live in Munich. I'm a Flutter developer, and I work in a small agency called SnapX. We're relatively small and young, so if you want to follow or watch out, we could really use it. And yeah, normally I wouldn't talk that much about it, but in this case, I really have to talk a little bit where I worked over the last years because it has an influence and it led to this coffee machine today. So 2015 and even a little bit before, I worked at a small place in Karlsruhe where I studied, and I was embedded developer there. So I did hardware design and embedded development in assembler, C, a little bit C++. After that, the important thing for this talk, I joined a startup in Munich. I think that was around 2016. We built a fitness wearable, worked there for a few years, but that's not really the important thing. What happened there was, here you can see a picture of us. I found it on my phone. Looks like it's one of our dailies. As you can see, we're drinking beer, we're in Munich, but we also have the coffee machine. It's the small thing, the black one right next to me here. And well, we were a startup, and that coffee machine it sucked. It was really, really bad. It broke all the time. It blew the fuse. All of the all of the power went off in the whole office, which of course we worked on laptops, but as a software company, yeah, that's not that cool. So somehow I was the electrical engineer there, and somehow I was tasked with repairing that coffee machine, even though I really didn't know that much about it. So I started learning about coffee machines. And yeah, I think over the few years we worked there, nearly every part of this coffee machine broke. So I learned quite a lot of things. I know how coffee machines work. I got really into this whole coffee field, and it's a science. You can really spend a lot of money there. And yeah, that's where it all began. And if we look where we are now, like, it didn't change color. I now have a few coffee machines in my basement and in the kitchen, and this one is the one you see here, and as you can see here, yeah, it's speaking to my computer. So, about this coffee machine, I mean, that's what this talk is about, and of course, embedded Flutter. The model, it's Illy Francis X1. Up to yesterday, I thought it was just called Illy Francis, but somehow that's the name. And it was in production since 1995. It's a really simple old coffee machine, aluminum boiler, single circuit, of course. Like, that's for non-coffee machine enthusiasts, like more expensive coffee machines have two circuits where they have one with the brewing temperature, like two temperate circuits, sorry, one with the brewing temperature and one with the steaming temperature, where you need a higher temperature, of course, so that the water evaporates. So this is a really, really simple one. And yeah, it's still produced today. You can buy it. I think that's mainly because of the design, and you can actually get some quite good coffee out of it, especially if you change the things we're changing here. So I need to give you a little knowledge of another domain, which is about coffee. So just a little bit, like this is a whole science, because just Google it and it's a lot. You can spend thousands of euros there. The important things for us, which I'm going to talk about right now, are like the few parameters. There's way more, but normally when you take an espresso shot, the duration of extraction is between 20 to 40 seconds, normally between 25 to 30 seconds. While doing that extraction, so while the pressurized water goes through the grinded coffee, the temperature must be within a temperature of 88 to 96 degrees Celsius. That's really important, and this temperature should be as constant as possible. You normally aim to have a ratio between water to coffee, to ground coffee, from 1 to 1.5 up to 1 to 2.5, so that the espresso is as strong as you want it, and that you would talk of an espresso. There's more parameters. There's the degree of roasting, there's the grinding degree. Is it coarse, is it fine? And to be honest, like the grinding, if you guys want to get into coffee, the grinding is the most important thing. And your grinder, especially when you start up, like if you look into coffee machines up to €1,000, the grinder can cost as much or more, because the grinder is really, really important. Today we're not talking about grinding. Today we're talking about the temperature, because the temperature has a pretty big influence on how the coffee will taste. The same roast will taste completely different with a lower or higher temperature, and in a coffee shop, when they really have those pricey machines, they normally get fine-tuned in their shop for the right temperature. And it depends if you have a lighter roast of beans, a darker roast of beans, so it must be set to whatever you like your coffee the best, or the coffee shop. And yeah, if we look at if everything comes together, this is another machine, but it's just really nice to watch. That's how it looks when an espresso shot is taken. Like, it looks really nice, though. Oh, can you even see it? It's too dark. Anyways, it's a real nice thing, and up to this thing, a lot of plays have to fall in place. So, it comes again. So, well, on this machine, let's look at it. It's okay now, this may be a little bit much, it looks complicated, but in fact it's not. That's the machine, and if you look here, we mainly have 3 switches, as you can see on the front. We have 2 light bulbs that show up, that light up when the heating is running or when the machine is running. We have a heater and we have a thermal protection. So when the temperature in the machine goes too high, this will shut everything off. Great. We have the heater, and normally the heater will be supplied by current as long as this PCB that was in the machine is saying, hey, temperature is not high enough. So there's basically a temperature sensor on the PCB looking, temperature too low, yes, heat, temperature high enough, cut off. This, as you can imagine, this was an old machine, and there was nothing digital on there. And at some point, this thing broke. And yeah, I Googled how much are the spare parts, and yeah, it was like 50 euros or so, because it's an old machine, you had to get a used one. And maybe that wouldn't work also. And plus, I didn't even know, was this thing hitting the temperature? So I thought, hey, why spend 50 euro on this thing? Back then I was working at a company where we're building a fitness wearable that measures the ground reaction force under your foot and calculates your biomechanics. I should be able to build an electronic that measures temperature and shuts something on and off. Yes, I was. So I took all of this crap out and put in an ESP8266. Temperature sensor attached to it. And well, this looked more or less like this. This is like the machine is still looking. Like up there, we have a small power supply for the 5-volt DC. We have the ESP8266. We have a solid state relay that turns on and off the heater. And in the middle, in all those cables, there's a temperature sensor that's in the middle of the boiler, and it measures. Also, that pump isn't original. That's one of rather expensive coffee machines normally, but yeah, I had it laying around. So yeah, then you can see now the hardware, at least where we started. So about the software, I needed to have embedded software that takes a temperature input, has an adjustable PID controller. I want to PID control the temperature, and drives the solid state relays. And it should run on the ESP8266. I thought, come on, I can't be the only guy doing this. And back then it was even harder. I think it took me a few weeks finding them, but actually there's communities around this, and especially this one, Clever Coffee. They even have a homepage. It's open source. Check it out. There's a community around it. They have Discord, everything. They provide exactly what I was looking for. It runs on exactly this microcontroller, on another microcontroller as well. The temperature accuracy is 0.1 degrees Celsius, which is great. It's ready to go for several temperature sensors, freely adjustable PID parameters, MQTT support, and in the last years, there was stuff added like you can build in a weight scale and you can turn on and off the pump until the volume of your desired espresso is reached. So it's completely getting out of hand there. So yeah, I built that. I hard-coded in the PID values. And well, yeah, then today we're here talking about Flutter. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool to be able to control this thing with something like my Google Hub with the smart display and stuff. So I thought that would be cool. I have it standing on my desk. So next thing, I only know Flutter. So next thing is I thought, hey, let's just build something. Raspberry Pi with a display, build something on, with Flutter on it, and connect it through the MQTT server that's already running on there. So, well, that sounded like a really, really good idea. And yeah, that's what I made. And that's what we're here today. Because actually, like, you all know those smart hub displays, and running an MQTT broker on a Raspberry Pi is really, really easy. So this thing is like the whole smart home universe. You have devices talking over MQTT, and you can just do whatever you want in Flutter, and you can build your own Google Hub and make whatever you want on there. And of course, for the future, I want to replace that Node MCU in there, which I didn't do yet. This will be the next talk. And then have everything on the Raspberry Pi, because it got GPIOs, it got everything in there. So I should be able to run the C library of the PID controller as well as a Flutter UI. But that's something I'm going to talk about in the future, not today. So for the software, for the UI part, like those requirements, yeah, like for where Flutter devs doesn't sound too complicated, right? Like displaying 2 temperatures on a chart and connecting through MQTT. And then for the future thing, that's not implemented yet, but was always already very important back then, it should be able to connect through dbus in the future, so we could talk to other processes running on a Raspberry Pi. So checked it, the solution, you can check it out. It's the code that's running on this machine. It's just really not worth taking a look because it's 1 or 2 Dart files. It's, yeah, I mean, you know how easy that is to just show a chart. So just use Riverpod. You really wouldn't need it. I just use it because I'm used to. The library FL chart, MQTT client, and the important thing for the future, on PubDev, there's also library dbus that's already working in there. So the coffee machine in action, actually, I thought this room would be way smaller and I would just show it to everyone, but I guess you back there don't even see that there's this coffee machine standing here. So I took a video in the hotel, made a really big mess yesterday. So I want to show you how it looks like when you control the PID values running live and seeing the temperature live on the machine with the Raspberry Pi. So I'm not starting the pump yet, I'm still doing that manually, but as you can see on the video, if it starts, yeah, it should have sound as well. Ah, yeah, soon. course, coffee runs out. I didn't change too much there, but as you can see on the Raspberry Pi, it detects that the temperature decreases. As you can see here, we're already at 81 degrees, which is way too low for the desired temperature. So we would have to refine our PID values to be way more aggressive, to heat way more aggressive when the temperature decreases, when there's a brewing. But yeah, that's what we can do now, and one we can adjust with using Flutter. So yeah, you may ask yourself why I'm talking about now, why I'm connecting it through MQTT and why eFlutter, and that's a big thing I want to talk about today, like why embedded Flutter, why am I doing all this? I mean, I kind of did it because I just wanted to find out if it's possible and because I could, but I also wanted to find out, is Flutter for embedded devices, is this a solution that works? Can we actually go in that market? Or how does that market look like? Why should we bother doing Flutter on embedded devices? I found a Medium article that's already written in 2021 by Florian Koma, whom I don't know, maybe he's here in the room. That would be funny though, because he brought it on point. Like, I mean, you all know it. We go around and all those devices or coffee machines, even here at the venue, a lot of times those devices have a UI, have a touch screen, and that UI just really sucks. Working with this thing, sometimes it's so bad, and you just don't know why. Because like I tested it here, interacting, touch, like everything swiping, that's just like on a phone, and that is the super cheap touch screen from Raspberry Pi, the original one. So why? And if we look into that, and if we compare a little bit, like this is only a few GUI frameworks prominent, especially on Linux. Then, yeah, we have Chromium, we have GTK, Mono, Qt, Flutter. I don't think somebody will write something for coffee machines in Unreal Engine or in Unity, but it's there. We could do it. And if we look into it, and if we look what's in the industry, then the most common solutions or approaches will use two solutions. First is Chromium. That's basically like Chrome. It's a part of Chrome. It's basically just a web browser. It's HTML5, it's JavaScript. So what speaks for this solution is just the low cost, at least money-wise. It's easy to develop. I mean, we all can do it. If I would task anyone with developing this without prior knowledge on how to do it, you would do exactly the right thing by just guessing. You would build a web server on an embedded device, run a browser, and connect to that web server locally. That's it. So it's also the bad side of it. Like those embedded devices, do you guys want to try your Chrome browser on a device with 2 gigs of RAM or even less? Good luck. At some point, somebody's going to introduce jQuery, and from there on, all the things will just go south, will go really, really bad. You'll get a huge resource footprint, and it's not that easy accessing local files or hardware. So yeah, it's a web browser. But it's the solution you choose if you don't have that much money to spend, because the other solution is Qt. And that's a cross-platform framework developed in 1995. I mean, could you imagine what Flutter would have looked like if it would have been developed in 1995? But it's widely adopted in the IoT and in the embedded industry. Like, this is the industry standard if you want to build GUI frameworks on embedded devices. It's just a standard, it's reliable, but the biggest thing that speaks against it is the licensing model, because it is partly open source, but if you want to use it commercially, fee supply. I don't know how high they are in detail, but effectively you have to pay for your developer seat or enterprise. You have to pay in regard of how many devices you have out there where it's running. And if you just read about it, Google it, it rates really not that high on a developer experience. Like a lot of people, yeah, it's C++. Try going out with your new startup, doing something embedded, and then finding young people willing to learn C++ and a library that was created in 1995. Yay. I mean, we have Flutter, we know all of it. We have hot reload and stuff like this. It just makes our life so much easier, and it's all open source, and we don't have to pay for it. So the question, why should we think about using Flutter on embedded devices, is not necessarily because Flutter is that good in this field. It's just what it is. And the rest is really, really bad. Like, we got something here where what we didn't even know about, but we got something here that does the job actually really good, just how it is right now. We can just build UIs how we do it, and it works really good, and it's the better alternative compared to what's being done in the industry right now. So the big question now is, how do you do that? Google I/O, they presented it. This was after I submitted this talk, so I didn't know that at Google I/O there would be some code, Flutter running on a Raspberry Pi. But yeah, this is the interesting part of this talk. And you won't remember any of the lines of code I'm going to show here. You're going to take pictures, never look at them again. So I'm not going too heavy on that. The thing we have prepared, and where a colleague of mine helped me really a lot, is we've written an article where we have a step-by-step guide with performance measurements and everything that you can look into afterwards, sharing the article. So right now you can focus on the things you need to know so you don't take the wrong decision, and why we're going that approach, which is the really important part. So what are the options we have to run Flutter on embedded devices? There's more. This is just a small list. So I think the most three prominent choices right now is just going for Flutter as it is. I mean, it runs on Linux. It runs good on Linux desktop. We have Flutter Pi, which is a custom embedder that is non-official, of course, that is really focused on running Flutter on the Raspberry Pi. And then you have Flutter eLinux by Sony. And yeah, don't get misled by how many stars it got, because this Flutter eLinux project by Sony got several repositories. It's open source as well. And yeah, like the embedder got way more stars. So yeah, it's just different repositories. Don't only look at the stars. And to make a decision, I'm sorry guys, this is the second time I have to talk about a completely different domain today, but it will be the last one. You have to know a little bit about display servers on eLinux. And primarily, yeah, like what is a display server? It's a program or a part which is responsible for the input and coordination of its clients, of your GUI, with the hardware, with the system itself. It basically is the thing between the kernel and the GUI. And in Linux, there's two really, really prominent display server protocols. And the most prominent one is Xorg, X Windows system, or written as X11 here. And a newer approach is Wayland. The thing is, Xorg is really widely used. It's this old thing, and I think in 2014 they found a really crucial security bug that was existing still 1991. And most of Linux systems nowadays, desktop systems, use it, and all of the libraries are dependent on it, so it's super hard getting away from it. Wayland is faster, better, more secure, less latency. It's just the way to go. And the adoption is still in progress, and it's really, really slow. So the problem is that on desktop, all the libraries, all the third-party apps, so many of them are dependent on Xorg that this moving goes really, really bad. So in fact, like I think one version or two versions before the current version, Ubuntu tried to switch to Wayland, and it just went horribly wrong, and they moved back. So I just want to give you a TLDR. On desktop systems like Raspberry Pi OS, it is more or less a desktop system, even though it runs on the Raspberry Pi. It looks like a desktop system. Xorg works better, but on all new devices, like on embedded devices, Wayland is the way to go and is the future. Because new chip suppliers, the hardware, like NXP is a major hardware supplier. Their latest ARM64 chips, they don't support Xorg anymore. So if you're going to build something for embedded, you normally use a very tailored version of your Linux distribution. You use something like the Yocto project to make only what you need in there. And with the new hardware, you don't even have the option to go for Xorg anymore. Whereas on desktop, you can just use Xorg, and in production, you will always use Wayland. So with that knowledge, we can now look at the main difference between classical Flutter, the classical Flutter embedder, and the embedder from Sony. And the thing we see here is that the embedder from Sony just is not dependent on GTK and GDK in version 2 and 3, where Flutter desktop is heavily dependent on. And that means that if you want to do something for the embedded world, and if you want to build something for industries or production ready, then you don't really have a choice. You have to go with not the original Flutter embedder. You have to use something like the eLinux embedder by Sony. If you want to even if you just want to do it on a Raspberry Pi with Raspberry Pi OS, use normal Flutter. We tested it, it's written in the article, performance-wise, it works like a charm. It's great, awesome. But if we want to build something that we can debug and use now on the Raspberry Pi with Raspberry Pi OS, but that would also run in the next years and also runs on other embedded devices, which is just the industry standard ARM64 everywhere, then you can't use the Flutter embedder right now. So another important thing why we're talking a little bit closer about the Sony embedder here today is the way it's documented and the way where it's aimed at. Like Flutter Pi, the name implies it already. It may work on other systems as well, but it's mainly focused on the Raspberry Pi. When we look at what the Sony embedder does, we can see that they tested it on a wide variety of systems and chips, and those are the most important ones right now. So we can already see that the embedded Flutter by the Sony repository is already capable of running on all of these boards just flawlessly. It's really good. So we go for Flutter eLinux because their goal is, they've written it, I don't know what the side of Flutter and the official side is here. Their goal is to merge it one day into the Flutter engine. They have ARM64 support. They support just a lot of devices. It's more lightweight than the official Flutter SDK because you don't need GTK and GDK. So therefore, you can use Wayland, this new display server protocol, and you can use Xorg, Wayland, DRM. So you have everything that comes in embedded world is open for you. APIs such as the method channel, event channel are completely the same. So it's built in the same way. And the next thing is like, of course, packages work, plugins won't. Like everywhere where there's native code, this won't work. Even the Linux plugins, they won't work. You have to rewrite them. But some of them have already been rewritten. You can just download them. You can find them over the Sony repositories. So work is done here. And we should also think about that on embedded systems, there's just a whole different thing. So we don't necessarily need that many packages to talk with other stuff. We have things like MQTT, where we talk for the smart home approach. We have like the dbus, which has been the industry standard to talk in between processes running on an embedded Linux system. So we have everything there already. And if you need something, yeah, then the community or you have to contribute it. So if we now look at this step-by-step guide, it's ridiculously easy. I mean, yeah, you just have to, if you're using, like, this is for the Raspberry Pi. And if you're using Raspberry Pi OS, which we would recommend, I mean, just get Raspberry Pi, install Raspberry Pi OS, it's the official one. If you just install, that's also written in our article, which I will show at the end. Install those few packages, git and unzip, I don't know. Clone the repository, move it, set the path variable, and you have you can run Flutter Doctor. You can run it like running apps or debugging apps. The syntax is a little bit different, but that's very well described. You can essentially, you see it here in the fifth thing, in the fifth element, that we're giving into use Xorg as display server, because we could also just build it for Wayland as well. So it's really easy. That's like the talk I'm doing here. This is basically it. You can just install Linux and an embedded Linux, the custom embedder, on your Raspberry Pi and run Flutter apps. Hands-on, what's really cool, you can just, it's a Raspberry Pi, you can just work on your desktop machine. It's ARM64 anyway in most cases for all of the Mac people with the new CPUs here. You can just develop on there and then push your code to GitHub, fetch it with the Raspberry Pi and build it there. It takes 2 minutes, but 3 minutes maybe, but yeah, go grab a coffee. I mean, Gradle is way worse. So just, yeah, it's easy, and cross-compilation also works. It's not that easy, you'll encounter some challenges, so I wouldn't recommend it, but it works as well. And the important thing is, and that's already the end of my talk, we have the step-by-step guide, if you want to follow it, where I have to say big thanks to Payam, a colleague of mine who tested it on Ubuntu, on Raspberry Pi OS, on everything. You have a step-by-step guide on what commands to run to really install it. And yeah, people, so that's basically it. And please just go out, use Flutter, what we already have, it's really not different, and let's make those embedded UI devices better, because most of them really suck. Thank you.